And now we turn to Sri Lanka. The country's parliament will reconvene on July the 15th and elect a new president on July the 20th. It comes after protesters stormed the presidential palace and prime minister's residence last weekend. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa confirmed he will be stepping down as previously announced, and the country's prime minister also agreed to resign. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has called for a smooth transition of the government in Sri Lanka and condemned all acts of violence. The UN chief also called for the country to find sustainable economic solutions. Sri Lanka is experiencing its worst economic crisis in 7 decades. Inflation stands above 50% and is expected to rise even further in the next few months. People in Sri Lanka are struggling with a lack of daily necessities. Now, for more on the situation there, let's cross live to our correspondent Ravinder Bawa in Colombo. She's been following the situation there very closely. So, Ravinder, as we just reported, the president is going to resign as a plan, also the prime minister. So, a new election will also be held. How's the security situation going for that plan?
Well, as you see, we are right now at the President's office, which was taken over by the protesters on 9th of July. And just as behind me, you can see, this is a new queue that we are seeing outside President's office, outside President's official residence and Prime Minister's official residence. And these are all people from other parts of the country who have come down to actually see where these elected leaders operated from, where they lived, and nobody wants to miss a chance. And this is a new trend that we are seeing for the last 3 days. And this line just doesn't end here. It runs for 400-500 meters along the boundary wall of this office. So that is a new scenario that has developed after 9th of July, where these protesters have taken over these official premises, and they say they're not going to leave until the officials resign, until the Prime Minister and the President resign. On the other hand, the government has announced that there will be an all-party government which will be coming into place after the President resigns. If he resigns as announced on 13th of July, then 15th the Parliament will be reconvened. By 19th all the nominations for the post of the President will be filed, and by 20th Sri Lanka will have a new President. Till then the Prime Minister takes over as the President, because that is what the legal provision is. But we'll have to still wait and watch and see whether this resignation, which has been the demand of these protesters from day one, is going to happen on the 13th July. And if it does, it will be a moment of change. As people say, it is the people's power that has brought in this change. So a lot of confusion and political instability at the moment in the country, which needs to be sorted out very soon for the economic crisis to be dealt with. Pandang.
So, Ravinder, let me quickly follow up on what's happening right behind you. Is this kind of an official arrangement? You know, they say that people, that presidential palace is officially open to the public, and they can queue for a, quote, visit, or this is kind of some voluntary formality. Are there any, a government institutional presence there? For example, the police. Who is going to maintain order in the capital?
Yes, actually, Pandang, this is not an officially opened, not that the office has opened the gates for the people to come in. As you see, the barricades, the wall here was actually broken by the protesters on the 9th of July. We did see some kind of violence and arson, although the protesters say they did not play any role in that. But definitely, this boundary wall was intact, and it was full of security forces in the last 2 months since the protest started outside the President's office. But this is not an official allowing permission for them to come in. The protesters have taken over all these buildings, and they say they will not leave till the resignation happens. So it is, that's the situation here. As far as the investigations into these acts of violence which have happened, they are being done, and some arrests have been made. The Prime Minister, whose residence was set on fire on Saturday, he came out yesterday and spoke and mentioned the circumstances under which this this happen. But definitely at the moment the security forces have been instructed not to use any kind of force. So what we are seeing in all these buildings is that the security forces are there, they are standing, they are just trying to manage the crowd. They have opened one gate to enter, one gate to go out. Some sections of the presidential palace has been locked from yesterday, but otherwise, as we saw in the visuals, from the swimming pool to the bedrooms to the kitchen, everything was taken over by these protesters in the last 2 or 3 days. So that's the situation on the ground. While the queues for petrol, while the queues for milk, they are still getting longer. At the same time, these are new queues that are people who are curious and who want to know more about these buildings and their leaders. Pandang.